Now, lawmakers are seeking to question Mugabe on his 2016 claim that the country lost $15 billion in revenue due to corruption and foreign exploitation in the diamond sector. He failed to attend the parliament hearing once again, and there's allegations of corruption within ZANU-PF, which has been leading for decades. Tinashe Jonas, leader of the newly launched Ideal Zimbabwe party, has alleged capture of the judiciary, army, police and the state media by the ruling ZANU-PF. We had that discussion here in studio last night, and today we are joined by ZANU-PF to give us more clarity. Also, now, according to reports, Mnangagwa, the president of Zimbabwe, who is also ZANU-PF, is said to be an accomplished preacher, is also accused of corruption by some of the nationals and rivals, including Jonas from the newly formed party Ideal Zimbabwe, which we had on our show last night. And tonight we invited him back in studio for the big debate that we have. And joining me in studio, we have Tinashe Jonas, president of Ideal Zimbabwe, Bosta Chinodakufa, ERA spokesperson. We have Kennedy Mandaza, ZANU-PF spokesperson, and Chadia Tapiwa Diamond, an Afro expert. Very warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I'm going to start with the ZANU-PF spokesperson, since we didn't get to get more clarity on what Tinashe Jonas had said, alleging that there is capture of the judiciary, the army, police and the state media by the ruling party. What is your response to these allegations?
Good evening to your viewers. ZANU-PF remains focused to the work that is at hand to make sure that we deliver the mandate that we have as the ruling party. The allegations that have been thrown around are not new, because each time we have had, we approach elections, we have had such allegations being thrown left, right, and center. But what is critical, I think, is that whenever allegations are thrown, it is important that people should have tangible facts and evidence and take them to the people that are supposed to deal with those allegations. Our judiciary and other arms of the state remain as independent as they have ever been. And we believe that they are in a position to undertake their roles and responsibilities as enshrined by the Constitution of Zimbabwe. And I believe so strongly that any allegations like what has happened in the past, when cases of various nature have been taken to the courts, they've been presided over by the judiciary, and they have given rulings that have been favorable. And we believe that if ever there are those allegations, they should be taken to the law enforcement agents, and they should be presided over by competent courts that are there in Zimbabwe. And whatever outcome that comes, the president has been very clear. He has said that he will abide by the outcome of any of the judiciary that we have, judiciary system that we have in Zimbabwe. So, and whatever the people have as questions right now, I think they should come up with the relevant information, the relevant evidence to make sure that that can be verified by the right structures that are in Zimbabwe.
I'm going to pose this question next to our Afro expert here in studio. Diamond, what's your take when it comes to Zimbabwe's judiciary system?
Well, probably what is important to understand is that if we go back into the year 2000, when the movement for democratic change was formed, in those first elections, when people took in the elections were not a free and fair encounter, but it was rather a free and fair encounter. And after when the opposition party lost, they went to appeal into the High Court. And a couple of seats were nullified in the High Court. I remember there was Judge Gabe, and I remember Morgan Sangirai. I remember also Richard and other people who went and had their elections nullified. The results were nullified. So the matter was taken, of course, on appeal by the Supreme Court. But all the judges, all the people in the judiciary who had made decisions which were in favor of the opposition party were kicked out of the system. They lost their jobs, they were threatened, and they left the system. So that is the underlying history that we have from the formulation of the opposition of the left wing in Zimbabwe. So that probably has not been properly rectified, because you have seen decisions which have been passed by the judiciary which was biased towards the ruling party. So there's been, of course, there's been no doctrine, there's been no respect of the doctrine of the separation of powers from the old regime, which was led, of course, by ZANU-PF and Robert Mugabe and his cronies. But what we have seen a little bit of a difference when it comes to the way the judiciary works. There has been some difference, but it has not totally changed. So the status quo has sort of remained the same, not just only in the judiciary, but if one also look at the legislature, and if we also look at the powers of the executive. If we talk about corruption, the executive which was there, which was corrupt, was the one which was reintroduced again. So the status quo has remained, even though a few things have begun to change.
I'm going to invite Bosta Chino Dakufa, ERA spokesperson. We've heard Tinashe saying that there is a capture of the judiciary, the army, police and the state media by the ruling ZANU-PF. I wanted to get what does the ERA have to say? What is their reaction around this?
Good evening, viewers. Actually, I would not dismiss what Tinashe said, but what I want to look at is what do we mean when we say there is a capture of the state. From my understanding, I believe where there is a capture of the state, there is total paralysis of all the institutions of the state. There is disempowerment of every authority that can be there to serve within the state. And if we look at, even when you look at what I can call the ideological state apparatuses, like the media, the judiciary, all those things, you find they are under some attack. When you look at all those things, you begin to define what do we mean by state capture. So we look at all these systems one by one and say, do we have a media that is free in Zimbabwe? Are the people free to express their views? If your answer is no, we come to the question of why is the answer no? It's because there's been some systems that have been introduced to suppress the freedoms of people, and that is capture on its own. We also look at state institutions, like when you say the state has been captured, it might be by the army, it might be by the police, it might be by the executive. We look at the power that those institutions are wielding in comparison to the people that are the subordinate to that power. And like the situation in Zimbabwe, you find, I think even before the coming into power of this Mnangagwa administration, there was no freedom in Zimbabwe. There was none. The president's word was almost like law unto the nation. And that is, to me, total capture, because during that time, the parliament was invested with the power to make laws. And now, of course, we do have constitutional democracy. And within the constitutional democracy, we are talking about, we then need to see evidence of separation of powers between the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. Now, we want to check whether these three institutions or these three arms of government, are they operating with that total freedom and independence? Now, as ERA ourselves, we look also at our values. One of the values is we value democracy, and we value what we call participatory democracy, where we believe that every citizen has got the right to express themselves. Hence, we have got our value system that is based on what we call JEFTA. That is to say, we value justice and fairness. We value equality and equity. We value freedom of expression, transparency, and accountability. And when all those things are suppressed, then the state is captured.
Let me bring in Kennedy into this quickly. I'm going to come to you. Don't worry, Tinashe. Yesterday you had the whole time. You didn't have ZANU-PF in studio. Don't worry. I'm going to come to you. Kennedy, we've heard a few things that have been made by the two gentlemen right now. Adaman spoke about the judiciary not being totally free from capture, and that there are still some of those systems that are still in place that oppress Zimbabweans, still that are from during Mugabe's time.
The current president of ZANU-PF, who happens to be the president of the country, has said that let bygones be bygones. And in saying so, he was trying to say that let us look at the future. And when we look at the future, let us begin to look at issues, policies, and regulations that will seek to improve the generality of the lives of the people in Zimbabwe. From what we have experienced during the time of the former president, Comrade Robert Mugabe. And the other thing that also the president has offered to do is to listen and implement change for the benefit of the people. So the areas, the gray areas that people are citing are the areas that the president has said we will listen to, and when we have had the issues that have been raised, we will begin to look at changing policies and the regulations to make sure that he becomes the servant leader that he has always said he would want to be. So if there are issues that are in the judiciary, there are issues that are in the legislature, there are issues that are in the media, these are the issues that the current president is listening to, with the hope that he will sit down with the relevant structures that are there in Zimbabwe, including the structures that are in the party, to make sure that whatever is going to be implemented, the change that is going to be implemented in the country, will seek to serve and improve the lives of the generality of the people. The change that came in November was premised on the fact that even the president and the party itself, ZANU-PF, had seen some of the things that they felt and saw that they were not going in the right direction. And these are the issues that with the current administration, they are looking at improving, so that we do not have the kind of narrative and discussion that continues to bedevil the Zimbabwean discourse. When people sit down, they look at the legislature, they look at the media, they look at this and that, and always find loopholes of citing cases where they feel that the government has not been doing well. And as the president of ZANU-PF, who is the president of the country, he has offered to look into all these issues. And we believe that he is the right man who will bring the needed change in Zimbabwe.
Tinashe, finally, I get to come to you. We've heard what Kennedy is saying,
Yes.
talking about the grey areas that you might be seeing that are still in the process of being changed.
Yes.
What is your reaction?
First, I would say, for respect of my emotions, for Zimbabweans' emotions, can you remove that scarf from your neck?
Why is that the reason?
No, I mean, we are suffering because of this man and Mugabe. Can you remove that thing out of respect? So that I don't want to remove it from myself.
No, it's okay. Let's move away.
Can you remove that thing?
You
Tinashe,
can't.
let's move away from that.
Can you remove that thing?
You can't.
Tinashe, come on. This is not the time. Yesterday you got a chance to speak. We just want to hear Kennedy's side. Tinashe.
Let's see.
Tinashe, what do you have to say to Zimbabweans about what you just did?
We are suffering because, I mean, you can't project Mnangagwa in my face. You can't project Mnangagwa in my face. You can't. You should respect the Zimbabweans. You can't make Zimbabweans look at Mnangagwa for the duration of this interview. You can't.
What should be the way forward?
Why should we have the time to look at you?
We can't.
Why can't we? Why should we look at you?
No. We should respect people.
Why should we look at you?
You can't project Mnangagwa.
But why should we look at you?
When Zimbabweans are suffering because of Mnangagwa, you can't do that.
But now, Tinashe, what do you think should be the way forward now? What points would you like to put out to Kennedy so that they can look into those issues and try and make Zimbabwe a better place for all, so that we don't have Zimbabweans at the end of the day taking off scarves like what you just did right now? Instead, let's have a dialogue.
Okay, all right. I mean, a dialogue is good, but I mean, ZANU-PF is failing to respect people. They you know, if you intimidate people for so long, if you torture someone for long, you make that person endure the torture. You know, I respect ANC, I mean, Afro worldview. Yes. I was supposed to beat him up. You know what I'm saying? Because the point is, we have been induced to, I mean, fear and suffering for so long. We are now at a boiling point that we, as Zimbabweans, we should reject this intimidation of ZANU-PF because of use of intelligence, because of use of the army. As I sit here, I mean, I'm at a point that I feel like the army can even shoot me dead right now. So it's not nice when South Africa, as a chair of SADC, can actually, I mean, condone what is happening in Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans are in South Africa now. We are slaves. We are pereperes. We are whatever it is. A master degree person is working in the kitchen. Our sisters and are prostitutes in South Africa and the other countries. Our brothers are stealing here. They are in prisons. And the narrative is debating points. I should debate with ZANU-PF as to who is talking sense, who is not, when an ordinary Zimbabwean is suffering. I mean, you know what? We can't be academic. We can't be Cosmo. We can't do makeup to a situation in Zimbabwe, which is emergent right now. Zimbabweans are suffering. And it's a fact. And as Africa, we sit down in boardrooms, we negotiate, we do what? As to say Mnangagwa should win or not. Whether Mnangagwa wins or not, we know that they've in 38 years, they've made more than 90% of Zimbabweans scavengers.
Tinashe, I'll come back to you. We know we have callers on the line. Maybe there's somebody who also is in the same frustration as you. You never know. At Kempton Park, we have Teguta. Thank you so much for joining us. What is your question or comment this evening?
My comment is just basically to the men who just try to be funny in front of the camera by removing Mr. Mandaza's scarf. I don't think that's very human for him to do that, and I don't think that ZANU-PF has done such a shame to actually publicly shame or do something such in a disgusting manner. That men must be shamed, you understand? Why do you put such people in camera? He must be shamed. It's an assault what he has done to Mr. Mandaza, and I don't actually encourage such behavior. So that man must be shamed. If we find him again in Zimbabwe, that man, or we come across him in the streets, I think it won't be nice for him the way he has just treated to one of our members publicly like that. So
now, Teguta, I just want to come in there. I don't know if you have realized some of the frustration that Tinashe has been talking about, that most people in Zimbabwe are suffering, and even when they come to South Africa, the treatment that they get is not the proper treatment that they should be getting, because xenophobia still takes place in South Africa. I don't know if maybe you would like to share some light in terms of the suffering that Zimbabweans have been going through under the ZANU-PF party.
Yeah, okay, fine. Right. What happened is Mr. Ndaza has reiterated before, like in the discussion, he said that Mnangagwa took over. When they saw the ZANU-PF party, the new administration just took over because they saw the party was heading in the wrong direction. So Mr. Mnangagwa has just stepped in to put everything in the right direction. And that is what we are looking forward to. Not when Mr. Mnangagwa, when he came into office, he said, let bygones be bygones. So now we expect a new dispensation to move forward and take over and maybe bring more light into the country. So we do not expect barbaric people to come into the camera and then put on their own frustrations, of which Mr. Mnangagwa actually apologized to everyone. Let me tell you one thing. I was born in 1988. I'm a new generation person. But I actually respect Mr. Mnangagwa's call for people and unity to come forward towards the election, not violence, what is being displayed in the camera. That's my say for now.
All right, thank you, Teguta from Kempton Park. We also have Tano Koti from Mokopane. What is your comment or question this evening?
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Okay, I would like to comment on Mr. Mandaza's points there. I think if you quoted Mr. Mandaza's talking, he said things are still in order as they were, meaning that things have even changed. You see, it's still a state capture there in Zimbabwe. Everything is just as it was when Mugabe was there. So Mandaza and the last caller, they are on the same platform. They are not doing anything better for Zimbabwe. Their points are not bringing anything better for Zimbabwe. There is no change in Zimbabwe. That is the truth that we're supposed to say. Well, it's the same cup that we're drinking on. They just painted that cup to be green or yellow, but we're still drinking from the same cup. So let me agree with that last brother there was commenting that guy there has got the right to be frustrated just because Zimbabwe has never changed and we've been moved out of Zimbabwe in so many different ways. That guy was born in 1988. I respect him, the last caller there. He didn't see some of the things. I think he missed a lot of things there in Zimbabwe. We left Zimbabwe in a hurry, coming here, going, some other people going elsewhere just because of the force of Mugabe. So we have to speak out. That guy is speaking from his heart, he has been hurt. So Zimbabwe, my point to you, Zimbabwe hasn't changed. Zimbabwe is still the same.
All right, thank you very much, Tano Kuti from Mukopane. Thank you so much for calling in. I'm going to bring in an Afro expert, Diamond. We're hearing callers are saying that Zimbabwe hasn't changed. I want to get a sense of understanding from you on around the seems like there's a lot of frustration that's taking place, and some people are thinking, let's give Mr. Mnangagwa a chance.
Probably let me start by addressing what just happened here, right? I believe if you look at it from both ends, of course we don't like how it was manifested in studio and live on camera. But probably I could concur with you to some extent to say there has been a lot of frustrations with different people, and different people have been affected differently. So if you've been affected by the regime which is there, if you have suffered a lot, probably the frustration can be justified. But we are saying probably the platform might have been the wrong place to manifest, but it then goes in to say that there has been a lot of frustrations that is manifested from the ZANU-PF, from the ruling party for the past 38 years in Zimbabwe, you know. So, and violence, of course, is not the way that we deal with such issues, because we have been condoning and condemning what ZANU-PF has been doing of late, you know. So that is what I would say with regards to what has just happened in the studio.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Tinashe. I'm going to invite you. I hope you've cooled off now.
I'm fine.
Now, hearing what the callers have said, I want to just get your reaction around that.
Yeah, the thing, you know what, my wish and the wish of Zimbabweans is practical. You know what, a country can't be run by a group or an individual's opinion. As Zimbabweans, we're 15 million. And Mnangagwa and Chiwenga and Parents Shiri, the three people, they decide on what Zimbabweans can experience or whatever. They are the masters of our of life order in Zimbabwe. They are the authors of our suffering. A country needs all the citizens to participate. But if you can check, more than every day Zimbabweans are running away to UK, they are running away to South Africa. And then the narrative should be practical steps. Mnangagwa, the agenda of ZANU-PF is to maintain power, is power retention. So Mnangagwa is busy signing deals of billions with other companies without even websites. You can't sign a 5 billion deal with a company without even a website. They just lie to say we can build a bridge here, tomorrow they find there's no river, then they promise you we're going to dig the river. So we have been tortured and bombarded with the propaganda economy. To this point, Mnangagwa is not the best candidate to promise to Zimbabweans. But Mnangagwa is more evil than Mugabe.
Who is the best candidate?
Mugabe is evil. Can you respect me? Can you just respect me? And stay in your lane? We don't want, we don't want the people who are like gender pirates here. The point is, Mnangagwa is evil than Mugabe. So, for Mugabe to stand up, and because Mugabe was involved in the genocide which killed more than 30,000 people, and him and Mugabe, up to now, they've never released that document to Zimbabweans. So when Mnangagwa wakes up and say, let's see bygones be bygones, as the perpetrator, as a killer, you can't go to court and say, let's forgive each other. To yourself as a killer and the family which has lost a child. So Mnangagwa is not the best person to talk about bygones, let be bygones, because he's the person who should be tried. He's the person who is the most dangerous in Zimbabwe. So right now Zimbabwe has been hijacked by a killer. The genocide group, the 333, Mnangagwa, Chiwenga, and the parents Shiri, who is a cousin of Mugabe. He was the one who was the commander for the 5th Brigade, which was trained by North Korea. You know how North Korea is barbaric in killing. That cousin of Mugabe was the one who was commanding. You can't train people, soldiers, to kill ordinary people. And then up to now, we don't know how many people died. And Mnangagwa is standing up to say, the voice of God is the voice of the people. That's blasphemy. We can't let a devil standing in front of a church and then preaching. So anything Mnangagwa is doing, it's a devil preaching in a church. So we are not fools. We are not here to listen to stupid propaganda. I don't know if you are representing ZANU-PF, if you are really captured yourself, or you use your conscience to come here and defend killers. Are you normal?
Tinashe, let me get a caller on the line and hear what they have to say. We have Abal from Joburg. Thank you so much for calling in. What is your question or comment this evening?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good, thank you. All right, my question is, or rather comment is to Tinashe. I understand his frustration, and
yes.
You know what, you have suffered for so long because of a few elite people. But if we're going to be touching each other on national television, we're as bad as ZANU-PF to start with, okay? Then secondly, my next thing is to the gentleman to the right there, the one who's got the scarf for Mr.
Kennedy Mandaza? Yes.
Yes. All right. The problem with this is that these guys, just like that gentleman there to the right of you, they are close to these guys in power. They eat nicely. Our parents, our grandparents, our children, ourselves, we starve, we die of hunger because of these people. They keep the power closely to themselves. Let the truth be told, ZANU-PF is ZANU-PF, whether with Mugabe or this guy. If you look at Mnangagwa's history, he is a right-hand man of Mugabe from the back in the days. Just like Tinashe is saying right now, he was involved in the genocide. So what makes him a savior right now?
All right, thank you.
That gentleman right there.
All right, thank you very much, Abal. Let me get John before we cross back into studio. We have John calling from Cresta. What is your comment or question this evening?
Yeah, my problem is I wanted to address the guy who was violent in the studio.
That's Tinashe.
Yes, in the first place, I thought the younger person was supposed to try and restrain him from being violent. That is violent conduct, and I never expected any one of your guests to be violent within the studio. And as far as the Zimbabwean situation is concerned, a lot of things have changed. And the international community is actually appreciative of the developments which are coming through in Zimbabwe. The fact that Mnangagwa was deputy to Mugabe does not necessarily mean he will toe Mugabe's line of rule. So let's probably give him a chance and understand the way he's pushing the country through.
All right, thank you so much. That was John calling from Cresta. Thank you so much for those comments over there. I'm going to cross over to Kennedy. We've heard people coming and saying that you keeping power within the ZANU-PF and you're not actually assisting when it comes to the people of Zimbabwe. What is your response to that?
My response to quite a number of issues that have been raised is that since 1980, I think everyone has seen that under the government that have been led by ZANU-PF, we have had elections every time elections were due. And the 2018 is no different. We are going to have an election in which the people of Zimbabwe are being given an opportunity to go all out to choose a leader of their choice, to exercise their democratic right, to make sure that they have the people that they would want to lead the country beyond 2018. So it is not within the purview of ZANU-PF to say that we will hold on to power. If ZANU-PF wanted to hold on to power, it would not have given people the opportunity to choose somebody of their choice to run the country. And we are of the view, and we hope that President Mnangagwa has put it very clearly that he would want to usher or deliver a free, fair, transparent, and credible election. And he has been walking the talk, and we are hoping that everyone else who is going to participate during this particular election will also complement the effort of President Mnangagwa to make sure that people are given the opportunity to choose a leader of their choice, so that at the end of the day, nobody will be saying that ZANU-PF is holding on to power. But what makes people choose ZANU-PF is the fact that over the years, they've been offering plausible, they've been offering a manifesto that resonated with the vision and aspirations of the people of Zimbabwe. And this time around, we are believing that we are offering also a manifesto which is premised on unity, fighting corruption, the re-engagement of the local and international investors, developing the country, and the creation of jobs. And we believe that the contents of this manifesto will also resonate with the people. But let me also say that when people say that the country has not changed, President Mnangagwa has only been in power for 6 months. And within those 6 months, he has had to deal with people that have been in government since 2013. He could not have changed the guard completely because he had to make do with the people that had been chosen in 2013. And we are believing that, and we are hoping that in 2018, after the elections, President Mnangagwa is going to come up with a team that is going to complement every effort that he has been putting so far. Besides that, he has also said that he will also listen to the people. And you have seen that ever since his inception in November or December thereabout, he has touched base with various stakeholders in and outside the country to make sure that he sells what he has to offer for Zimbabwe, and trying also to build confidence amongst the people that would want to come and build and invest in Zimbabwe. He has also walked the talk, especially when it comes to the issue of inviting observers to come and monitor the elections that we are going to be having in a few months' time. And we are hoping that the affirmation that he has shown so far of walking the talk, following the pledges that he has made, will also translate into what we expect to see from all the 128 political parties that have shown interest in this particular election. And we believe that if we are credible, honest political parties that would want to bring in change in the country, in Zimbabwe, they should be honest enough and man up and stand up to the challenges that we have had so many years in Zimbabwe. The same challenges that we are saying under the stewardship or leadership of President Mnangagwa, ZANU-PF is going to turn around the fortunes of the economy of Zimbabwe within the 5 years which are going to come after 2018.
Let me bring in Chinoda Kuva, the ERA spokesperson. Now, we have heard Kennedy saying that Mnangagwa will listen to the people leading up to the elections and, of course, with the campaign as well. What is ERA going to do about changing Zimbabwe for the people?
Okay, before I answer your question, when I was listening to Mr. Mandaza, he said, in his praise of the current government led by Mr. Mnangagwa, he says they have given the Zimbabweans the opportunity to vote. I was really surprised to hear a party official of the ruling party saying that people have been given an opportunity to vote. There is no one that has been given an opportunity to vote because voting is a constitutional right. No one is granted by any party the opportunity to say we are giving you the opportunity to vote. We vote because it is constitutionally enshrined. And by virtue of saying that, it defeats the purpose. You remember when we started, we said, Zimbabwe, when Mr. Tinashe was talking, he said Zimbabwe is captured, and you asked me a question. And I said one sign that shows that a state is captured is when even the executive, they trump over the what? Even the constitution. So if we hear that the executive have given Zimbabwean the opportunity to vote, it means everything, the freedom of Zimbabwe itself, it is not within the constitution, although it is written in the constitution. But its implementation and everything, it is within the executive. That's why we are hearing that we have been given an opportunity. It's like it's a privilege to vote in Zimbabwe because you must be given. If you are denied, you do not vote. So I think there it has to be corrected. Then Mr. Mandaza went on to saying that Zimbabweans keep voting for ZANU-PF because of its attractive policies, the manifesto and stuff like that. I do have a document here, and this document is a ZANU-PF manifesto. 2.4, under the subheading, we say the new dispensation from pariah to global partner. From pariah to global partner. I'm going to have two comments on this topic, which says from pariah to global partner. The definition of a pariah state, it is a state that is born out of lawlessness, where people have accepted, ZANU-PF have accepted that there was no lawlessness, there was no economic development. And it was during that time that the people who are leading ZANU-PF now, they were also the leaders then, when Zimbabwe became a pariah state. And so what is happening in Zimbabwe? We are faced with a situation where our economic management of the country, there is just a recycling of the old people coming in with the old techniques and stuff like that. Then in their manifest, on the fourth paragraph of that pariah to global, it says, one of the things that they aim to do is to improve access. They are talking about the workers here, to say they are going to improve. There's going to be improved access to their hard-earned cash. They are talking about just an improvement of access of hard-earned cash. A manifesto must tell people that there is going to be cash in the country. So access to which cash? To US dollar cash. Because remember, US dollar that we are using is not our money. So we don't need improvement in accessing US dollar or the rand.
I'm going to have to come back to you. I have two callers that want to give in a comment, and then I'm going to come back to you. Okay. We have Mapako from Durban. A very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for your time. What is your comment or question this evening? Hello, Mapako. Are you still there?
Yes, how are you, sister?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yes, do you allow me? I just want to express my views in Shona to those guys. Maybe.
They'll translate for me, yes?
Yeah, maybe they might translate you if they understand what I want to say.
Yes.
Actually, I just want to say something about Tinashe. Tinashe, maitira waita muna anakumira zvakanaka asiro maitiro anoitwa, especially when it comes to politics. Uyezve uri pa television sezvawaita izvozvo. Well, unozviunderstanda kuti kuda unogona kuva uine marwadzirwo wakaitwa ne-ruling party matongera yakaita kusvika pazuva ranhasi, but maexpressera waita your anger pa-television haasiriwe wayayo. Tinotarisira kuti kuda saleader wouite zvinhu zvinenge zviri nani. Tinotenda. Thank you, sister.
All right, thank you very much for that. And we also have Lloyd. Lloyd, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still with you, ma'am.
Yes, Lloyd, what's your comment or question this evening?
Yes, my comment, the gentleman on the side with the blue shirt.
Yes, that is Chino Dakufa.
Yeah, the one that stood up and got the scarf off.
Oh, sorry, no, that's Tinashe. Sorry, that's Tinashe, yes?
He mustn't feel very much disturbed about the negative of the people. Once you are on the positive line, people become negative on the very vital things that you are doing or what you are trying to implement. That anger is not an anger of falseness. It's an anger of positive way of the feeling of a poor person inside. These people that are leading like the ZANU-PF, they are leading because of a party. They are not leading the people. They will talk about the rural areas. The same applies to South Africa. I stay in rural. I've never seen anything happening in rural. But when they go out and do whatever they do, they say rural area and all that. So the ZANU-PF, like he said, you cannot take the devil to preach inside the kingdom of God. Mnangagwa comes from it's just because, you know what, the rich people that are rich, they don't look at the poor, or the issue of a poor person. It cannot be taken serious. They always say constitution, what they've written, but the actual things are happening on the ground. They themselves, they are traveling, they are doing everything, they are putting themselves first, rather than the actual people down there. They will always tell you, let me say, for example, I'm a person from rural area. They say to me, I must give an evidence from these high people. Where am I going to get the evidence as I'm from the rural area whereby I'm staying poor? If I'm saying people are corrupt, they will ask me, give a proof. Where am I going to get that? Because I'm demoralized. I've got nothing to prove to these people that are elite. So the gentleman on the side that took off the scarf, it's a positive anger. It's not a negative one. It shows that those people now, they don't even go to the ground. People, come on, people, African people. Let's look at not what is written. You are good in ways. Implementation. We are suffering. You are good in ways that you have taken from other countries that you are saying it's constitution, our manifesto. Not all of us that can read that manifesto of yours. Not all of us that understand. We are just voting. You are just using people to vote. But you don't go to the ground. Please stop telling us about the constitution and all that. Implement. People, like he said, in South Africa now, they are Zimbabweans, I see them. They are struggling because why are they struggling? They are afraid of those people they are afraid of their country. Why are they afraid for their country? It's because of these people of ZANU-PF. Mnangagwa now they are praising him. Because of what? He is doing nothing from Mugabe. For how long now? How can he change after 38 years? Because he's dying now because he wants these people. The gentleman discussed. I see a position there. He's smelling a position from Mnangagwa.
All right, thank you so much, Lloyd. Thank you so much for that comment. I'm going to come to our Afro expert. We've heard a lot coming from both our callers, and one of them was mentioning that the feeling of a poor person in Zimbabwe is not taken seriously, and what we saw being displayed here is something that is actually most probably happening to most of the poor people in Zimbabwe.
Yes. We have an issue of class struggle in Zimbabwe. It's, of course, in every society. It's always an issue of saying it's capital versus the proletariat. The people in Zimbabwe have been suffering for a very long time. But now the issue now is there are certain things which needs to be done in Zimbabwe. For instance, currently, we have 128 opposition parties versus ZANU-PF. That works in favor of ZANU-PF. So the failure of the 128 opposition parties to come together and fight off ZANU-PF, for me, based on what is on the ground, it shows that there is a lack of communication, there's a lack of doing things for the people. It also means that there is a lack within the opposition parties. But of course, we have the MDC alliance, where there are a few political parties which are there. And what is critical for Zimbabweans now, I think probably both two gentlemen, what they're not addressing now are the issues to say. First and foremost, there is a need, we are looking at the elections now. First and foremost, there is a need for an observation of the printing of ballot papers. This was now coming from the MDC alliance to say there is a need, and they are not addressing this issue, to say there's a need to observe the printing of the ballot papers, number one. Number two, there's a need of having an independent external and internal audit of the voters' roll in Zimbabwe. There's no voters' roll in Zimbabwe. There's all need to demilitarize the ZEC, the Zimbabwe Electoral Committee, and also to have an electoral process which is not interfered by the executive. There's also a need of the diaspora vote. Both these gentlemen here cannot go and vote in Zimbabwe because they have been disenfranchised with the current regime which is there. So there is a need for that for them to voice their concerns on the international platform and talk about that. There's a need for reforms, for electoral reforms to be spoken to. If you look at the current Electoral Act, there's an amendment, Section 22A. It says that they have the discretion, the ZEC can have a discretion of having independent polling stations, you understand? So it then means that if they assume that there are a lot of people in a certain area, they can just arbitrarily have another polling station. And that is not right. It gives them too much powers, and they can end up having polling stations which are not authorized. So that is a threat to the opposition parties as well, and they should also address those issues. If you look at issues of the voters' roll mostly, they need to address that. If you look at the issues of in Zimbabwe, the government bought the railways for more than $400. The railway from the diaspora group, the railway, the trains which were bought are not compatible with the system in Zimbabwe. There was an aeroplane bought as well in Zimbabwe. That aeroplane has been taken back because I think it was for 17 million. The aeroplane is not up to standard. It still needs to go and get fixed. And these are the same issues that the opposition parties are not addressing.
Let me hear what they have to say in closing, because now we have to close the show. Let me hear, Tinashe, what's your last comments?
Okay, my last comment is that I concur with what he's saying, Mr. Diamond. As opposition, I mean, if we can list the things that makes this election not free and fair.
Are you still not going to campaign?
We don't need election in Zimbabwe. We need just Zimbabwe and 15 million to rise, and the mass power. We should take ZANU-PF out peacefully. If we fail, a full-scale war is needed.
So you're calling for a shutdown? We
need a shutdown. If it doesn't work, we face them head on. But they are saying they went to war. These people are old and dying. We can't sacrifice our future for all veterans who are sick and dying. We should take them one by one.
Let me get the last comment from Shino Dakufa.
Okay, my last comment is just that you cut me short.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, when I was still talking, I was coming to what he said. To say, when they said the ZANU-PF government has given people a chance to vote, what it all means is that the ZANU-PF government therefore has to control the voting structures, everything from ZEC and everything, because they are the ones that are giving people that opportunity to vote. So people are just given a voting right on a platter, and who prepares the platter and what type of platter it is determined by ZANU-PF. Hence, ZEC becomes an extension of ZANU-PF, if we take his word that people were given a chance to vote. But I also want to go back to what he said when he said, Comrade Mnangagwa said, let bygones be bygones. It is a good position to say let bygones be bygones. But we are faced with a scenario whereby those bygones are coming back to haunt us. For instance, if there is 400 million that is being used now to buy some trains that are not compatible with the railway line, buy aeroplanes and stuff like that. We are having the new regime again, recycling the old system that used to happen. So what we are saying as a party is that we would like any party that is going to govern Zimbabwe, that is going to be the ruling party, and all the parties that are going to participate, they must have people at heart, and they must know that they are there for the people and begin to serve the people and implement. You know, all these parties, ZANU-PF, MDC, name them, including my party. If you look at our manifest, they are very beautiful. But what is lacking in Zimbabwe is people that are going there to implement those manifests. So it's like me having a very beautiful French dictionary, but I cannot speak French. This is exactly what is happening in Zimbabwe. So as Ira, we are saying, we are not just going to have a dictionary. We are going to have a dictionary. Above that, we are going to be fluent in the language that we are expressing.
Unfortunately, Bolster, I have run out of time, but next time I'll make sure that I have you again so that you can also give more of your input. We had Kennedy Mandaza, spokesperson for ZANU. Sorry?
Closing statement.
To close.
I've run out of time. 1 second, yes.
A listening president, a president with the people's heart. Whenever the elections come, 2018, let us go and vote for President Idi Mnangagwa.
All right, thank you so much. We had Tinashe join us in studio, president of Ideal Zimbabwe. We also had Chadia Diamond also joining us, Afro expert. Right now in Afro Worldview, we'll be taking a short break. We'll be back with more news and updates. Stay tuned.